Welcome back to part 10 of our Introduction to Revit series. My name is Mr. Vosters. I'm a high school tech ed and engineering teacher. In this video, I'll just be showing you some different ways to present your model. So we are complete with our model. I don't believe there's anything we need to tidy up, but we should have all of our walls, floors, doors, ceilings, columns, you name it. We've pretty much modeled it. So we're going to work on making some sheets with elevations, floor plans, and then I'll show you how to do some cool 3D renderings of your design. All right, so let's jump right into making our sheet. And down here in the left in our project browser, I'm just going to right click where it says Sheets, parentheses, all, click New Sheet. Then I'm going to do this on a 11 by 17 horizontal sheet. If I click OK, it should pop up this template. If I want, I can change some of this. So client name, we do Mr. Vosters, and project name, we could do, I don't know, Blue House. We can name this whatever we want. This will be our elevations. And we could enter all this stuff too, project number, author, issue date, checker, all that. We're going to leave that for now since we don't really have the need to do all this stuff right now. And then from here, we can actually drag in some of our elevations, and it's pretty simple to do, but there's a few things that can go wrong. So if I just take one of these and click and drag it over into our sheet here, it's going to give us an error, and it's going to say that we've already got a sheet that's using this, and it's C10, where is it? Sorry, not C, it's A201, A202, A203, and A204. Those already have our elevations in them. However, the problem is we don't have this nice fancy sheets template, so we do want that. So the way that we can accommodate that is by right-clicking where it says East Architectural, Duplicate View, and we're going to duplicate that as a dependent. And we're going to do that for all of our elevations. We'll go into each of these and kind of modify them a little bit to tidy them up. So I'm just right-clicking each of my elevations, duplicating as dependent. Then I'm going to go into the original one and tidy up a few things. So I want to get rid of all of this stuff, at least these lines here. So I'm just going to highlight them all, right click, and we will hide those elements. I also don't really need this section here, so let's hide that one as well. Then we're going to adjust these lines to be a little bit closer together. Let's see if we can do that. So all I need to do is just click, drag those in. Hang on. Sometimes you gotta click that little lock button, or it starts doing some weird stuff. So we're almost there. That side looks good. Now let's adjust this side. Some of these will go together. I think that's because they're locked. Let's see if this one will work. That looks pretty good. All right. We're still not done. We are going to have to change the scale. Otherwise, this is going to be pretty gigantic on our 11 by 17. So let's switch it to 1/16 equals 1 foot. There we go. So now you'll notice these labels got a little bigger. Let's try to adjust those ever so slightly, just to give ourselves a little more room to read our elevation. That looks pretty good. Let's get rid of this. And then let's adjust this scope box so that it's closer to our house. So the way we're going to do that, go all the way down to scope box. Right now it says views overall. We're going to switch that to none. And then we'll show up with these little blue dots here. So all you need to do is just drag those in to kind of hug your elevation view. We've also got this little box out here. We're going to hide all this stuff. So right click. Once you've got it highlighted, hide those elements. You can turn off this little box. You can make it invisible. by clicking hide crop region. And now I'm afraid a lot of that didn't take in our duplicate view. So unfortunately, we'll have to go back into this one and just edit those real quick. Sorry about that. Some of these did not work. All right, let's kind of repeat that process here. So let's bring this in real tight. Trust me, this will save you some work. Let's hide this line here. Just want this to be nice and tidy. Let's turn off our crop region. Let's get rid of this stuff down here. So I highlighted, right click, hide elements. Now I want to go back to C102. And if I drag that copy, I can just kind of put that wherever I want on here. We can move it over to there, and then we can just repeat that process with our north elevation. Let's go switch this to the right scale. And let's go right into our duplicate and try adjusting this one. And that looks pretty good. Why didn't that update? All right, we'll come back to that. Let's bring that all the way in. These ones as well. Let me undo a couple steps. It looks like this one got a little wonky. Let's unlock that one. I think they're just kind of all tied together. So unfortunately, when I move one, it moves the others, unless I unlock them. All right, let's try moving this in now. That's better. I didn't quite get these even. Let's try that again. There we go. All right, that's looking pretty good. Let's just hide some of this other stuff. Right click, hide in view elements, and then let's make this nice and snug. Okay, click away, and then we're going to hide our crop region. I'm doing that down at the very bottom. I do see these lines now, so let's hide those. Go back to C102, and then go to there to get my north elevation in there. I do want to kind of line these up. That looks pretty good. If I do want to move this thing, I can, but it's a little bit weird because Revit doesn't let you click on it and move it. You have to actually click on the elevation, and then you'll get these little lines. Or you can just go ahead and right from having nothing clicked on, you can just click on it and hold the mouse down and drag it around to wherever you want. I want it to be even with the east elevation one, so it's good right now. If you do want to lengthen it or shorten it, that's what I was talking about before, where you have to click here, like on the elevation, and then you can shorten this up if you want. So if I want to shorten that, when I click on it, interestingly, if you try clicking on the label, you cannot shorten it. You have to click up here. All right, let's just move these up a little bit. That's pretty good. Why don't you go ahead and in this sheet, why don't you add the south and west elevations? And then when you're done, you're going to follow. So pause the video, do that. And then when you're done, you can actually export this as a PDF. So I forgot to mention before we do that, you can also change the view style of this. So you could have it be shaded. You could turn shadows on. That'll add this nice little shadow at the other side of your house. You can make this like a hidden line with shadows. which is kind of nice. You could do this one, hidden line with shadows. We don't see a ton of change, but we do see the shadow over here, which is kind of neat. We do see some shadows under the roof line there, so that's also kind of cool. So if you've got all your elevations done, unpause the video, or I guess you've already got the video unpaused. Go up to File, Export, PDF, and a lot of these settings you can just leave unless you want to rename. So let's do elevation, views, and then just make sure you save it where you want to save it. I'll save it in my floor plan folder, and then you can change it to a different sheet size, click export, and then we should be able to find that if we go to that same folder, elevation views, and there it is. So this is a nice little PDF that we can see all of our elevations in. This would be a great thing to send to a client. And then you can actually do this same exact thing for floor plans as well. So you could create a new sheet. You can right click new sheet. You can make it whatever size you want, really. I'm just choosing 11 by 17, and then you could drag your floor plan over. So if I wanted my L1, I could drag that over. It's already in A101, so I'd have to create a duplicate. So a duplicate is dependent, and now I can obviously clean this up so it only shows what I want it to show, and then I could drag it over into C103. If I try to do that right now, it's going to be really messy. Obviously, you've got your label way down here. You've got this background image of the floor plan that we imported. So you'd have to do a lot of work to clean that up, but certainly you would want to have a nice, pretty sheet like this for your client if you were developing this design for them. All right, let's close out of that. I'm not going to ask you to export a PDF of the floor plan, but if you're in my class for this assignment, I do want you to export the PDF of your 4 elevations, get it nice and tidy. Okay, the next thing we're going to do, I'm going to close out of some of these windows just so they're not clogging up my window here. So let's close out of those. Let's go back to our 3D view, and let me just show you a few things. So if I want to turn shadows on, we can do that. That's just kind of a nice little visual feature that we can add. If we go to like textures, you'll see that it looks slightly different. We've been through this before, but notice the difference that the shadows do make. If I turn them off, makes a big difference. We're not going to get into it in this video, but you can change the sun path, which is kind of neat. So if you have it at like 6 p.m., you can see how that house would look. So if we change it to 10 a.m., it's going to change the shadow that the house sees. So kind of a cool little feature there. Let's move this a little bit. So that's like at 8 a.m., you can actually see that shadow move. So kind of cool. There's a lot of different optionality in Revit, so I'm just going to turn this sun thing off. All right, let's show you how to make some cool renders of your floor plan or of your house here. Let's go to L1, and then we're going to go to the View tab and go to this little drop down under 3D View, select Camera. Then we're just going to click and place this camera, like I'm clicking and dragging, and you want your camera to pretty much capture your entire house. Here I obviously did not do that, so we can actually just kind of drag these little blue dots at the edges to make sure that we do actually capture everything. Kind of tidy that up. I don't really want that basement showing, if I'm being honest. And then if you want to kind of recenter it, you can do reset target, save. That's just going to adjust it to kind of center whatever you're looking at appropriately. Let's drag this one down a little bit. That's pretty decent. Let's look at it in a realistic view, see how that looks. That's kind of cool. You can obviously click on this camera. You can change like the eye elevation and the target elevation. So if I wanted to look up even more at the house, I could change this to like 33 feet, for example, and it's going to look up even higher. And then I could change like my eye elevation to be lower so that the house kind of looks more, I guess, like towering over you. So that's kind of a cool thing you can do. But this is not super presentation friendly. And what we can do to make something that's really presentation friendly is called a render. So in the View tab, we have this option called Render. It looks like a little teapot. That's going to make a photorealistic view of our design. Now, there's a bunch of different quality settings for rendering. When you're first just testing it, I would leave it in draft. When you are really ready to like create something for a client, you could go for like high or best. Best is going to take really long to render. And what I would recommend if you haven't done it lately is actually close out of this and save your design because rendering can potentially crash Revit in my experience or just slow it down a lot. So if you're not on a really powerful computer, it's a good idea to just save everything before you attempt to render anything. So let's stay in draft for now and just see how this looks. I'll give you a little preview. And if I go to exterior sun only, that's fine. You can change the style of the sky that we see in the render. So if I go to like few clouds and then I hit render, we'll see this actually kind of go in real time. So as we're sitting here, it's actually rendering. So just look at what we see here. It's kind of a different view. It's got the shadows all nice. It's got the textures pretty nice. And that's just a draft quality. So if I up this to like medium, it won't take that much longer on my machine, but it will look a little bit nicer. So let's just see how that goes. So it just spends a little bit more time kind of developing that image. And I like that quite a bit. So you can go back to the model and the render, kind of flip back and forth here. You can always adjust the exposure after the fact. So if I want to make like the highlights brighter, the shadows darker, you can just see how that looks. And that looks actually pretty decent. We can adjust the exposure to make it a little bit brighter. So let's try that. And if you ever do something like this where it totally messes it up, you can always just reset. So that's what I'm going to do here. Let's make everything a little bit lighter. That looks pretty good. You can change the saturation or the white point so you can make it either warmer or cooler. Let's click OK, and then you can actually save it in your project here. So I'm just going to leave the name how it is. Let's find that rendering. So it's in your project browser under renderings. If you just go to 3D view, it should load that up for you. And that looks really nice. The other thing that you should know how to do is find out how to adjust your camera. So if I go back to L1 and I want to adjust that camera, I can find 3D views and then I can just be careful because there's coordination 3D views and then there's architectural 3D views. If I click on this one and I right click show camera, now it's showing this camera here. So if I wanted to reposition it, I can do that. Now we can kind of look at our house from like a different angle, see how it moved it. If I just rotate this a little more, go back to my 3D view, it's totally different. Let's look at it from this side. Kind of cool. So feel free to play around with this. Can be make some pretty neat images, great for customers. And again, there's a lot of things you can do with like the eye elevation. If you do it pretty high up, you will notice, like if I do 6'6", and then I bring this down a hair, like that. If I render this, let's go to view, render, and then I'm going to do draft just so you can see it. At the horizon, the sun kind of cuts off and you get this like gray void almost. You can get rid of that by like changing the eye elevation or the eye elevation to like 0, and then you'll be looking above the horizon, so you won't really have that. Or you can change the background style. So you could change this to be transparent, and then you could just like paste this image over like a real life background. Or you could change this to like just a color. You can just have it be white. Maybe you don't want it to be blue like this. So I just click OK, render that. Now I should just get a white background, which can be nice as well, just like that. Um, you can also do renders and cameras inside your house. So if I go to 3D view, select the drop down, go to camera, and then I go over here, let's get a little view of our stairs. So if we wanted to look at how our stairs turned out, we can bring this in a little bit. Let's change the view. Let's get all the way down to the bottom of our stairs. We can bring this down and then change our view type to like textured or even realistic. Let's go realistic. Go over to view, render, and let's do a little draft and see how that looks. It's probably going to be really dark because right now our lighting scheme is exterior only. Let's change it to interior sun and artificial, hit render, and see if that shows up any brighter for us. There we go. It's pretty good. Let's up the quality to medium. Let's change the sky to very few clouds and then render it. See how that looks. Okay, it's looking pretty good. Notice how fancy this is. The floor itself kind of has like some reflectance. We can see our materials pretty well. Unfortunately, in this one, we do see kind of this like exposed wood because of the way we did our floors. So if you wanted to adjust that, let's go back to our original camera. We could just bring this down and then we wouldn't really see that. So don't be afraid to crop out things if they don't quite look how you want. Again, we're trying to make this look really nice for our customers. So let's undo that. And now let's render it. And I think that looks fantastic. So once it's done here, then I can save it to my project. Should show up now under the renderings in the project browser. So I can just jump back and forth between those. And these would be great to include in like a presentation for the customer. I've said that a lot, but it's really true. Visuals like this will tell a really nice story. That's going to be it for this video. So play around with the renders. You don't have to do this portion of the house. I just wanted to check out our stairs. You could also take a rendering of your kitchen or the upstairs part of the house, or maybe this little office over here. It's truly up to you. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video.